Hello, viewer, and this is Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And on Spotlight, we do our very best to bring to you conversations that are helpful, especially to us as Christians as we engage different things in the community. And in the last few weeks and for the coming few weeks as well, we are with the Bible Society of Kenya, and we are engaging the subject of trauma healing. And we appreciate very much your participation, and even tonight as we talk about children and how they experience trauma. Do engage us on 22232, that's our text message line. Also engage us on our social media platforms. We will be glad to hear your voices. And we are also very happy this evening to be joined by two trauma facilitators, and that is Gladys Kibui. Welcome again to Spotlight, and also Sena Shabari. Welcome to Spotlight again. Today we are focusing on children and trauma. I mean, a very sensitive area, Gladys, when you think about children and trauma. And the sight of a child who is traumatized is usually it's unforgettable. Right? Just seeing a child who has maybe gone through a very frightful experience. It's very deep, and it makes a really lasting impression. And so, just good for us to begin by asking ourselves, what are some of these bad things or traumatic things that children experience, Gladys?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And research has shown that all of us, as human beings, over 10% of us have experienced at least one of the bad things that children experience, to use the language of children, including such things as physical abuse, that's beatings, throwing things at a child, and all those kind of things. And some children who encounter physical neglect. You deny them the basics of life, such as food, education, medical care, or even just talking to that child. Children also experience other issues on the emotional side. Emotional abuse, like not talking to a child for a long time, for extended period of time, and sometimes you respond to them in a rude, an abusive way, a verbally abusive way. Those are some of the things that make children become very sick. There is also emotional abuse. Neglect is not talking to them. Abuse is actually now making them live in a fearful situation. They don't even understand what is happening. Neglecting them such that even when they are there, you discuss your many things, many agendas that are very fearful and very scaring, thinking that children are not getting it. What children do is that they fill in the gaps with things that are imaginary, things that they can make sense of, and they fill in those gaps. That is emotional abuse. Another one would include having parents who are addicted to substance or to anything kind of addiction. They model bad behavior to these kids. And therefore, that's another thing, bad thing that children encounter. And another one is when they have one of their parents imprisoned. Because the parent that is left with them tends to be traumatized also, and the children of a traumatized parent are also traumatized children. So that is what happens to children, among many other things that really make it hard for children. And what happens that when they encounter that in their adulthood, they have distorted knowledge, distorted behavior, distorted lifestyles. They become people pleasers. Some of them go into addictions because of what they encountered when they were young.
Okay. Yeah, and it's very easy sometimes, as you say, to neglect children and neglect them in that you don't even think that they are emotionally being impacted. I'm trying to think about a situation of mourning, when a child has lost a friend, lost a parent, lost a sibling. I mean, maybe you can bring to us some other situations also where you say children experience bad things when they encounter these things.
Sure, Reverend. On top of what my colleague Gladys has said, adults, we kind of forget that we were once children. And how we would wish to be treated when we are children is what we are expected to treat children. For example, when adults are speaking together, especially like I meet my friend who is carrying a baby, I just greet them and I ignore the baby. We should actually first start with the children. If they're able to speak, talk to them, show them some smile, and show them some love. Then you can continue the adult conversation. But on matters of traumatic experiences, some include sexual abuse. Their children have been sexually molested by their loved ones, by their relatives, close friends, and people who are just close neighbors. And children do not know who to tell and how, especially if they're not in a friendly home setup. If the parents are not so friendly, that child will never tell anyone. If they are friends with their parents, thank God, that child might end up telling their mother. But there are many who are suffering today as adults out of experiences that they went through when they were children, and they were very traumatizing. There are also children trafficking. Children have been sold, quote unquote, to do other things. And there also children are used for drug trafficking as well. Children are used to sell drugs, go to high schools. It's happening all over.
Okay.
Then there are also rejections, like a child grows up in a children's home only to grow up and discover that their mom is alive, but they just neglected them and they rejected them. They don't want to see them. I have handled a few cases where youth today are suffering out of that because they were rejected by their parents. So connecting with their adults, it is really hard, and they feel they live in that pain. Yeah.
All right.
There are others who are also being introduced to alcoholism because they grew up with alcoholic parents, especially the fathers who come home drunk, and the kind of things they do at home, then the child, that's what the child picks. So they don't see, when we tell them that alcohol is no good, they don't understand, because who is modeling them? It's their father, especially a boy child. The father is the role model, the primary mentor. So it will be hard for them to quit such behavior because they have picked them from their childhood life.
Yeah, I think I'm glad that we're talking about children today, because most of the times they are on the background. You know, the world is just about adults. You know, children. I mean, grow up and then take your space. But the fact that we're bringing children on the forefront is very significant. I'm also thinking, Gladys, about just in the parenting dynamic, whereby a parent projects their day or projects their own emotional ill on a child. The child is innocent, but because as a parent, something is happening in your life, then you project it on the child. Maybe you can say something about that.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very good observation. I thought it used to happen during our time when you'd probably go home from school and then you are waiting there and you are wondering, where is your mother to give you food? And then she comes and takes her seat. And then you ask, what are we eating today? Then she asks you, did I come with any food? Or you cut the slippers and give it to me, because they are already traumatized people.
Yeah, those are the African mom.
Yes,
African
they are
mom
traumatized.
and their alliance, right? Yeah.
That is how they were brought up. That is what they were told. And therefore, they just continue. That's what was modeled to them, so they continue with us. And unfortunately, when they continue with us when we were kids, that's how we bring up our kids. We respond to them in ways that it's abusive to them. And therefore, they learn from us. They are socialized from us how to relate with other people. They never get into good relationships. They never get into gender relationships that are valuable. They never get to value adults, because after all, if my mother can come and tell me I'm as stupid as my father or something of that nature, so my father is stupid, so am I, so is everybody. So they continue living in such kind of a life. And it's not because the parents probably wishes to do that. It's because they are traumatized. They were traumatized. They did not handle that. They are living in that trauma until now, and therefore they continue taking it on and on and on. And as we learned in lesson 2, these things have to be well thought of, consciously processed. Pain must be expressed so that you don't take to the next generation. Actually, what the saying goes, whatever is not transformed is transferred. Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'm also thinking, Rev, socialization plays a key role because as we were growing up, there are things that children are not expected to do. In the modern society, my view is that we should start discussing matters in the family at early stage. Let them also know what is happening in the family. Because, for example, when parents come home with that harsh and in that harsh situation, most likely they are going through a difficult time. Maybe they are going through a financial crisis, like during the pandemic. Very many adults lost their jobs. But how many of us told their children that, you know, we have lost job, let's now try rework our budget. So if we bring our children on board and try to share as much information as we can, of course, age-appropriate information, because you don't want to traumatize a very small child because of the information you're sharing, I think they will also be able to even help children. I went to visit one mom during the pandemic, and what she told me is that her 15-year-old girl who had just transitioned into high school was the source of encouragement because she lost her business, she lost everything, and this little girl would tell her, Mommy, everything will be okay, because she shared with her. If only we could share what we are going through, children will also be able to help us as adults, because you come home and tell you, Mommy, don't worry, everything will be all right. That is an encouragement to the parents. But when we don't tell them, then we bring everything onto them and they don't understand. If only they could be welcomed. We don't talk to the children. We should talk with them.
Okay.
There's a difference.
And it's a very good picture there of a mother who's being encouraged by the child. And I also have an image of street children. And sometimes when you're on the streets and these children are sent to you by whoever is with them in the streets, whether you're walking, whether you're driving, sometimes you wonder, you know, should I embrace this child and give him or her what they're asking? Should I just ignore it? Should I be kind? Should I be a little rough? You know, sometimes because those children are, you know, we don't know exactly how to manage that situation, Gladys.
Yeah, thank you. We have colleagues who have been dealing with the street children here in Nairobi, and they were able to make that one as one of their key performance indicators to just bring these children back to their families or in a place where there is a routine. Because even when I was working and going around Nairobi, as you are saying, and meeting those kids, you are agonizing, you are in a dilemma. Do I give them, do I not give them? And there is this organization that used to tell us, don't give them, give the organization, because the organization just collects them and puts them in a way that they can be able to grow. So that kind of agony is solved when we have an organization that is handling that. I think it's called Child Life. They collect them, and then we give to Child Life, and then they're able to collect them from there. Because if we leave them there and we give them, a child does not know how to take care of their own life. How will they know when money is supposed to be buying food, it's supposed to be taking me to school, or it's supposed to be taking care of my clothing? They don't know all those things. So when you give them money, most of them end up in drugs. Most of them end up being contented in that lostedness.
So from what you're saying is that it's not wise to give them. Maybe you can extend kindness in another way, but not via money, right? And I was talking about children and the impact that these bad things have on the kids. One of the questions that is on our minds right now is how their emotions are affected. And the viewer, as we continue to engage this, do please share with us your experiences, share with us your questions. Again, 22232 is our text message line, and also engage us on our social media platforms. We want to hear about your encounters, even as we talk about how these bad things impact on the emotions of children.
Sure. Bad things affect children in three main areas. Emotionally, behavior-wise, and physically. Starting with emotions, when a child has gone through bad things, the list that we started with, they may show emotionally by either being very fearful. For example, if a child was at Dusit, for example, if any bang happens here, that child will be the first person to be frightened and maybe to scream. They may be fearful. If she was raped, she will not be comfortable staying near the gender that did the action, so they will live in fear. They also may be, if they're small children, with that fear, they may tend to cling to their mothers. And when you take that child to school, they will have hard time coping in school because they want not to leave their mother at any particular time. But now, if you're not aware, you may think the child doesn't want to go to school. They may also be angry at all times. A small thing, a child expresses a very high level of anger, can just take a glass and bang it, can bang everybody, or it, the younger ones or the older ones, because of what they're going through emotionally.
Yeah.
They could also be crying anyhow. They just feel like they want to cry, even without any, like if a child does something wrong, you know, when a parent raises a concern, why did you do this? The first thing, before they even say, I didn't, I'm sorry, they start crying at once because of what is they're harboring in their heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite something, it's very heavy, you know, for the child, Gladys.
Yes. In addition to what Senna has said, they also live a sad life.
Yeah.
They are sad all the time. And every time they lose something, even if it's a small thing, they manifest a very big level of sadness because of losing a pencil or a rubber, because they are still dealing with that experience they went through. These children also sometimes feel like they are responsible for what happened.
Yeah.
Whatever is happening in my family, it is happening because of me. If I was not there, it could not be happening. For example, if it's in the case of domestic abuse, they think that their father and their mother are fighting because of the children. And because they are hearing their name being mentioned, so they think they are the cause of what is happening. And if they are older kids, sometimes they feel guilty.
Yeah.
They feel guilty for having survived whatever bad thing has happened. For example, if it was a case of death by maybe a disaster, maybe something that has happened and they have lost some friends, they feel guilty that they have survived and their friends have died, as though they are the cause of the problem that happened. So those are some of the emotional effects on children who have experienced bad things.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe you can also go ahead and tell us some of the physical effects of children who have gone through traumatic experiences.
Thank you. The physical things that are happening on their body, these children start stammering or stuttering. A child who had a good command of English, all of a sudden cannot speak the English, and then you cannot even hear what they are saying. And some of them will completely mute. They are not able to talk.
Yeah.
We had a case of a child who was taken to a police station, and then this child was not talking at all. But then you could ask the people who are responsible and going around him, how did you know his name? They couldn't even I think they became confused about this boy who is hearing and not talking. So they couldn't know how they got to know his name. And they couldn't tell whether he's talking or hearing. They didn't know. So they were asking me, is it possible to be deaf and then to be mute, but you can hear? And then I asked them, what language would this boy be talking? And then when some women gave him some food, and then they gave him an avocado. And when he tasted it, he said, Shube. So they knew that this boy can talk, and it's only that he has been traumatized. So that's one of them. Another one is that children who have experienced bad things, they tend to lose appetite or have a very high appetite.
Yeah.
They tend to lose their sleep or they oversleep. They tend also to have, just like adults, chronic pain. They have headaches, they complain of stomachache, they complain of stomach, other pains here and there. And some of them start even showing signs of hissing. So some of the asthmatic signs that we see in children may be as a result of trauma, not a medical problem. And we have cases of children who have recovered immediately. They have been helped. They have recovered completely from that, or those asthmatic signs, completely.
Yeah, it's just, in a way, it's sad, you know, because when children are going through these impacts, one wonders how they're processing that. How do they process? How do they think? How do they break things down? You know, because they still have the, you know, the mind of a child, the eyes of a child, you know, the environment of a child, and how they process these heavy things, Sena.
The processing manifests in their behavior as well. On top of what she has said on physical, there are children who also go back to bedwetting, and of course poor performance in school because they can't concentrate. Manifestation of what they're processing will show, even in the way they behave. Like some become very aggressive. They are aggressive if they are doing games, they are playing in the field, they just want to play rough games. They are not cool, they don't want to be friendly in their games. They also, if they are older children, they want to do, like if they are cyclists, when they ride bicycles, they don't want to do the estate roads anymore. They want to go to the highway and they want to speed off. That is a way of expressing, bringing out their pain. They can also engage, they can also like sign up in some gangs so that they can revenge, especially teenagers. Some teenagers who are in the terrorists' gangs, they are not there because they wished to be there. But because something bad was done to them when they were younger, and maybe they have never told anyone, and nobody has ever bothered to know what they're going through, then they think, I want to get into a gang where I can, I can get an opportunity to revenge. So when they get a gang, you can be sure they will shoot so softly without even thinking about what they are doing, because they're just trying to express their pain and to revenge. There are others who will also, we've been to high schools, and things that are happening in high schools are worrying. If only the Ministry of Education would be concerned not just about academics and good grades, but to the heart first. Mental health should be an issue that should be discussed in high school. I wish they could roll out some programs. We've been to some high schools, and one girls' high school, when we did trauma healing sessions, we did the first 2-3 lessons. And what the girls expressed is that some are suffering physical wounds because the pain here is too much and they can't get it out. So they think by bringing it physical, it will be lesser here. The physical wound is manageable, I can treat it. But this one, I can't get in here. I wish I could just get out my heart and throw it away. So some have cut themselves in all parts of the body, and it wasn't easy even for us looking at those girls and wondering, how did it get here? It is painful for children.
Yeah, it's even as we speak right now, you just can't help but feel a lot. And maybe we can begin also to talk about, Gladys, about how adults usually will react to the changes that come from traumatized children.
Thank you. I think most of the adults, because they don't understand what is happening, even if they are healthy adults, let's take a case of an adult who is not traumatized, and maybe this child has gotten the trauma from the school and from relationship, boy-girl relationships if they are teenagers, and the parent is assuming that this is a normal child. One of the things they do is to beat their children. Yeah, they are becoming delinquent children, even not just the parents, even the teachers. They start sending these children away from school. They get them to be punished And these children are going through a lot. And when you punish them, they become more angry. And so the behavior escalates.
Yeah.
And in addition to what Senna has said about cutting themselves, that's why you find most of them who have tattoos. The tattoos were made allowed that age, age 14 to age 19. It's a one way of beating this pain by inflicting more pain on yourself, including suicide.
Yeah.
It is known through research that suicide is the cause of death, number one, on teenagers from age 14 to age 24. And those are some of the repercussions that happen to that. And parents are just angry with them, and that anger manifests in children behaving even more badly. They hit one another, and they relocate. They become defiant children, and they run away from home.
Yeah.
And that way, there is no relationship now between parents, and the parents cannot help anymore. And they are saying that what they are doing is we are praying for our children. But the first thing we should do, even when we are praying, we should be praying to know, even to have, the Bible says, to have the joy of finding the right words for your children when they are suffering, so that you can listen to them and they can know that even if anything happens, no matter what bad things we experience, I can always come back to mom, I can always come back to dad and share what has happened. But the parents, they side with the teachers, and they are thinking they are helping, but they just make the case just worse.
And you see, as you talk about that, I'm just thinking about how easily kids are misunderstood in the name of the adults here.
Yeah.
Senna.
Thank you, Rev. Like I had said that we should purpose to talk with the children, not talk to them, because they are able to reason and respond. You know, like when children bring report forms at home, I don't know how many parents first appreciate and congratulate them for finishing the term. Finishing the term is a milestone. Before you get to grades, let them know that they were missed. While they were away, we missed you. Welcome back home. We are happy and glad that you are back home. We were not called at school for any discipline case. Show them the good things about them. Show them that they have a position in this family. Let the report form come like days later when they have felt so comfortable. Even if they have a D, it's them who will bring the report form and tell you, Daddy, you know what? I have disappointed you. I feel so sorry. I'm sorry about it. But when we ask first thing, where is the report form? That child, we know we are gifted differently. That child may be very good in co-curriculum activities, but they're not doing very well in academics. I wish we could build on their talents and giftings and encourage them in those areas. Because it's like about grades. I've been talking to high school. I talk to teenagers in high schools, and one of their concerns is, please tell our parents, have a parent session and tell them that we are not all A students. They need to understand some of us are average. Let them encourage us. I wish we would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as you're speaking, I remember an experience whereby there was a teacher and the parent had been called to school, and the teacher told the parent who was there, "Oh, you are this child's parent," and the lady said, "Yes." It would be better if you had bought yourself a small calf in the hearing of the child. I mean, and it's you know, I'm just trying to realize why I'm remembering this is because I was a student next to this one. You know, and I mean, as you speak about this, I'm just trying to imagine how injurious that is.
Yes.
And viewer, we are talking about the bad things that children experience, and just especially as parents, I mean, things to think about. As guardians, things to think about, and even as teachers, as people who deal with children in one way or other, this is a very important session for all of us, very eye-opening, and do keep engaging us on 22232, that's our text message line. Also engage us on our social media platforms. Again, we're talking about the bad things that happen to children, and we are thankful to Bible Society of Kenya for bringing us these very insightful sessions. We are taking a short break. We'll be right back. This is Spotlight here on Hope TV. Thousands of people throng cities every single day looking for opportunities to make their lives better. They are employees, business owners, or just opportunity seekers desiring to have a breakthrough in their lives. Join me, DM Tanki, as we take this journey from the perspective of different successful entrepreneurs and corporate employees on Occupy Today every Sunday from 8 p.m. exclusively on Hope TV. Look and live.
Coming up this September, CITAM Springboard Convention 2022 with fresh anointing to radiate God's glory as we reach out to the lost. Mark and save these dates from the 20th to the 24th September 2022 at CITAM Valley Road. The convention is themed Till the Whole World Hears and will gently revive and uplift your faith. The Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 24 verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Get ready for the Springboard Convention 2022. You don't want to miss it.
You know we can't forget them. And neither can you. Enjoy all-time classics every Thursday at 11 a.m.
To do their best at their performance. I like skating.
Mama Vivian, tumekuja kukusalimia. Amefufuka leo, mfalme wetu watawala. Na hizo nguvu leo, twaziona sasa.
Hope TV is now available on GoTV Channel 103, Zuku Channel 873, Signet Channel 817 and Star Times Channel 026. Enjoy our uplifting content and family-friendly programming anytime. Hope TV, you look and live.
Welcome back, viewer. This is Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live, and we are talking about children and their experiences of trauma. Very insightful first session there, and we are thankful to Gladys and Asena, who are coming to us from the Bible Society of Kenya, bringing to us these sessions on trauma healing. Very insightful, very, very insightful. And viewer, keep engaging on 22232. Also, our social media platforms. Let's hear what is coming to your spirit, what's coming to your heart. Maybe you want to share an experience, we want to hear it. And lots of challenges, lots of challenges that the children experience. And we were all agreeing that children are really neglected. Children are looked down upon. As we were talking, I was thinking about how sometimes, there could be like two types of bad experiences. Some could be accidental. They're just natural. There's nothing you can do about it. But the majority of them are actually afflicted. They are inflicted on children. People actually go out of their way to hurt the children, which is, we're learning now that the effects are really, really intense. So we should really modify our behavior when it comes to children, especially as adults. And so we ask ourselves now, Gladys, how do we begin to help these children?
Thank you. We will start with those ones that are accidental. A flood has occurred, war has occurred, and things of that nature. And children are everywhere. They have lost contact with their parents, and things of that nature. The first thing you have to do is reconnect the children with their parents and start the routines. Whatever they were doing before this accidental disaster has occurred, help them to start doing it again. If there is a way that they can start going to school, they should start going to school. If there is a way that they can be told stories, if there is a way that they can go out and play, they should be going out there. If they can sing, let them sing. Whatever is possible that the children were doing, helping in house chores, they should continue doing it, because children thrive in routines. If there is no routine, children tend to get confused and they don't know what is supposed to happen. But when they know, when we wake up, this is what happens, then next like that, they thrive and they feel secure about what there is. But if it is the self-inflicted trauma that we cause to children, like domestic abuse, now this one is a case now where you need to do what we call social justice. Start from what is the root of the problem. Get the parents, even if you have to deal with each one of them separately, deal with them to show them that whatever they are doing, whatever it is that they are arguing about, it is affecting the children, so that it can stop from that macro level before it even reaches the child. Because even if you help the child and you reconnect them where there is war, the child will continue to be traumatized. So that is how we start helping.
Oh, Sena.
In addition, everybody needs love, including you and I. So show children some love. If you realize some children are going through a difficult time, they are just recovering from a traumatic incident, show them love, affection, and give them some assurance that I am here for you. I am your confidant. Please share about your feelings with me. I will keep it secret. Of course, there is information that you might need to share with some others in the family later, but you need first to assure them that you are the best friend that they have. Then also tell the children the truth. Yeah, I don't know, in African culture, death is like a no-go zone for children. So if there's a death in the family, we tend to go comfort the family members. But I don't know how many of us take in on the children's welfare. So we ignore their feelings. We may bury their sibling without telling them so-and-so has left us, she has gone to be with the Lord in the age-appropriate language. We need to tell them the truth. If a child has been on some routine on Bible teaching and on some information, if we've been sharing in the family, definitely if a sibling is missing in the family, they need to know, why is this person gone? So we gather in the family, we mourn with the parent, because more or less is the mother who cries most, who has lost a child. But then there is a 3-year-old sibling here who has lost a sister or a brother a day 2 days old. We don't tell them exactly what is happening. If they are able to comprehend, get to their level, tell them the truth.
You know, as you speak, Sena, I'm thinking, I'm remembering a situation where a parent had died, and their child was told that, your dad has gone to be with Jesus. And then she was like, okay, all right. And then she happened to see, the newspaper, the obituary. And then she asked, I can't see Jesus. I can see my dad, but I can't see Jesus, because you told me that my dad went to be with Jesus, but I can't see Jesus, which is quite...
That also can bring some disaster, because every child loves Jesus, and they want to meet Jesus one day. So when you tell them their dad has gone to be with Jesus, they desire to go also. So if they can get a way to go to Jesus, and to go is in quote unquote, they will go. How? This child may end up committing suicide because they don't have much knowledge about at what point does death come and how do we go there. Who does Jesus speak and for what reason? They need some information, because when you tell them they have gone to be with Jesus, children love Jesus. And they know Jesus loves them. So they know their father is in a very good place. They also want to go. And they might get, with this internet, they might gather information on how to die. And they might commit suicide out of that. So that's why I'm saying tell them the truth, give them all the information, what is appropriate for them, because you also don't want to dish all the information at once. You may cause more damage. Work with them slowly by slowly. See what they can understand and their reaction. Read the nonverbals as you share with them also. See what they can understand and hear their response. When you share the truth, hear their response, see their nonverbals, then now you like disseminate information in bits. Yeah.
That's quite something. I mean, Gladys,
Yeah.
telling children the truth is not easy.
It's
Yeah,
not
I have
easy.
not easy.
one of the people that we have trained in trauma healing who is doing a very good job when it comes to getting children to know that somebody has died. So she was giving me an example of this couple who lost their older child. Now this one who is left is the younger one. So she was already telling me, I didn't know about that you can pay the mortuary where the body is staying, and you are given the body for the whole day. And so that is what she normally does. Goes with the whole family a day before the funeral. Goes with the whole family there, and they get the body, and they can view the body. And she was now explaining how she dealt with this kid. And I thought that's a very good way of handling this case. She held the child and held the child up there and showed this child, see, who is this? The child calls that name, tries to call that person, and then the brother cannot answer. So she tells her, now he can't answer, he can't hear. And the child starts crying. You wait for him to cry. And when he finishes, you tell him, now tell him bye. Then he tells him bye. And when they went home, because the parents were also there, they cried all the day. And when they went home, the child stopped asking them, where did my brother go? And during the funeral, people are wondering, why is this family so stable? It's because yesterday they processed everything. They cried, they saw the body, and they are now like, okay. Because some of the questions that children ask when you are telling them the truth are very hard questions to answer. Some children will ask you, because they can see the photo, the portrait that was carried during the funeral, the father is still opening the eyes. So the child will ask, did dad close his eyes when you are throwing the soil to the grave? You as the mother, now you are even hurting even much more because of that question that has been asked. So it's important for the children to understand that somebody has died. And that child who was asking whether the dad closed the eyes, he had also asked before. This was the second question. The first question was, no, I don't want to eat. Has dad eaten? Can we take food to him where he is? So he needs that knowledge to know what happens when somebody dies. And people don't, as Senna said, people don't deal with the children. They just deal with the adults. They finish the funeral, and the children are left wondering, why had people gathered in our family? Why don't I see my brother or my mother or my father from that day? So those people are bad people, because I think they carried away my father, my brother, my sister, whatever, whoever has died. So we need to deal with the children at that level and let them know that somebody has died.
So,
Wow.
when dealing with children, some of us adults don't know how. So maybe we can help them know how to help children process the emotions or whatever they have gone through. Listening to children is different from listening to adults, because adults will tell the story, they will cry at some point and pause and regather their energy and tell the story again. But children may not be able to tell, especially the younger ones. So when we were doing lesson 2, we brought up 3 questions, listening questions. What happened? How did it make you feel? And what was the hardest part for you? Now, when you are listening to children, because listening is one very key thing, we don't tell people what to do when they are going through situations. We listen to them and understand, try to feel their pain. So when we are listening to children, you can ask them to do a role play of what they went through. So when they are doing the role play, your work is to watch how they are behaving, how they are reacting, how they are engaging with each other. Then once they are done, you can give them some sessions, sit up and let's discuss the play. How was it? Which character were you? They will tell you what character they were. Then ask them, is it similar to your situation? How was it for you in the situation that you went through? They will share role playing. Then the other way is for younger children, you can ask them to draw. Children are very good at, they understand more by seeing. So they can draw a sketch. You may think that they are drawing something that you understand. No, until you ask them, please tell me about this picture. What does it mean? Who is this? What is it about? Then from the picture, they will tell the story. But if there was no picture, they wouldn't share the story. But they are able to remember because they will say, this is dad, this is who, you remember that person who attacked us. They will tell you about everything. Then you can ask now, because that basically covers what happened. Now you can ask them, how did you feel? How was the experience for you? And as they are sharing, they are bringing out their pain.
Yeah.
For the older children, for our teenagers especially, they may not be able to share, but you can give them peers. In the peer group, they'll be able to share amongst themselves. Just ask them to tell each other, maybe in pairs, then maybe in the group of 5 or 6. By the time they're done with the first person and come to the larger 5, they'll be able to tell the story because they are comfortable with their peers.
You know, as you speak,
Yeah.
I'm thinking that this truth-telling to children is a compulsory knowledge that every parent needs to have, every caregiver needs to have, because at one point or other, it may not be a hard truth about death. It could be a hard truth about something else.
Sure.
Because families are dynamics, relationships are dynamic, and therefore at one point or other, there will be a tough thing going on. And you need to communicate to the children.
Even a children born out of wedlock, they'll ask one time, who is my father?
Exactly. So it's a skill that's not just for the morning, but for every parent, because it's sooner than later, there will be a hard truth that children need to know as compared to concealing it. For us as Christians, spirituality is a big thing. We say that Jesus is the answer. That is. To an adult, maybe that is something that they know. They can be able to maybe relate. Suffering and trauma with their faith. But how do you help a child, for instance, through the Bible study, or how do you help a child through some form of spirituality who is going through this traumatic experience?
Thank you. For those people who normally just keep the Bible there and will use it again on Sunday, it proves to be very hard now to introduce the Bible because they will associate the Bible with the pain that they are going through. But it's always good to know that once a child can be able to talk, can be able to hold a conversation with one another, they can be able to talk to God. And you should be able to help them to tell God what they are feeling. Tell God what you are feeling. After you have done what Senna has said, listening to them using drawing, painting, and role play and all that, you can be able to ask them now, let's tell Jesus what we are feeling. And we should be having conversations every day when things have happened, when there is a lot of bad things that has been experienced by the family. Having a day in the time in the evening, maybe before the evening meal, just to play together, just for everybody to talk and they say, how was your day? How did you feel? What was hard for you today? And asking them these questions. And then you share the word of God. Tell them that our help comes from the Lord. Let us read that psalm. And they see you trusting God for the healing of the family from what you have encountered through. And you continue with this family devotion, age appropriately, with these children. It will really help a lot. Okay. Just the same way that the adults, we say that we use the Bible because it's God who heals us, and He uses His word to heal us. So we use the same with the kids. The Bible tells us that if we, as evil as we are able to give children something good. We give them bread, we don't give them a stone when they ask for bread,
Yeah.
how much more will God give the children the Holy Spirit
Yeah.
as their teacher, as their comforter, as their healer? So we should be able to bring the children to know that they can trust God.
Sure.
And even if it's teenagers learn best not on being preached. One of the boys in high school said that what he doesn't like about the Sunday school or the teens sessions that are held in the church is that he feels like he's in a guidance and counseling session. The best thing to do for them is to give them a kind of Bible study to do together, because teenagers learn best from their discussions with their peers. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, on what she has said, when we've talked about family devotions, very key. It's also important, it's like she has said, that people take turns, even children. Maybe the first day the parents can guide them, the one, dad, the two, mom, and now from there they have role model. They can now take rosters who will lead in worship, who will give us the prayer, who will give us a sermon. Let them take turns, even if they are just going to read the word. You know, when they read, because when somebody knows that they are on duty for this assignment, they will take time. When they're taking time to prepare for the sermon, if the child who is in charge that day, you can be sure they will read the word of God, not just one scripture. They will read 2 or 3. They will move from one chapter to another. Then that way they will be able to interact with the word of God. And when they are coming to share in the family devotion, they are already encouraged. So they are coming to encourage the others. Because when you just preach to them every day, it will get to a point where they feel like it's boring.
Yeah.
Ask them to take turns, and also encourage them to be as creative as they can. We must not sit and preach the word. You can, if you're in charge of tomorrow's devotion, tell us what you want us to do. We can come with a skit, we can come with a poem, we can just tell us what to do. So that creativity will encourage them to be part of the devotion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bible Society has all the Bibles for every age. Few words, more words as you
Yeah.
continue growing before you start reading the ordinary Bible.
I think the word used was age appropriate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's very good of Bible Society of Kenya, just to think about children as well. You know, Gladys, I'm thinking about, there's the pain that happens. At one point or rather, there will be a pain happening in the family, in the circumstances of a child, as compared to addressing the pain when it happens. How do you prepare a child to know that life is rough sometimes? So they're not exactly taken aback when a bad thing happens. When a bad thing happens, how do you do that?
Thank you. That's a very good question, because most of the time, when bad things happen, parents just hold that problem and they don't include them, the children. Every time that you are doing all this Bible study, the way we have said about family devotions, always encourage the children to know that the Word of God is what prepares us, because you don't have to invite trouble in your life. It is universal. Help them to understand the origin of this suffering. And in the children program, trauma healing is not just the adult thing. We also have one for children. For children, we tell them where did suffering start? And we also teach them that in age-appropriate ways, to know the origin of suffering, and that everyone will go through that trouble, will go through suffering. But when you prepare yourself spiritually, practically, and you also know how to keep yourself safe, you'll be able to lessen the suffering that you would go through. So praying together, working together, informing them together, involving them in what you are doing. For example, in budgeting, let the children know how they can do budgeting. Let them know how they can escape from the trouble.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that a big practice, Sena, is to shield children from this. As a parent, one of the things you do is shield a child from knowing these things, that bad things happen, that difficulties do come. You want them to live on a plane where things are smooth and predictable, but we don't want them to really know that life gets rocky.
That is a disaster on waiting. Because, for example, if we don't we need to start telling children about eventualities of life. Even death, let people talk about death in the family. Occasionally talk about, if there is a burial happening on TV, let's talk about it. What do you think about those children? Tell the children, what do you think about those children? Because who knows, tomorrow you might not be there, God forbid. So at least the children will be able to gather their energy and cope in the situation because they had some pre-information. I think it's also good to talk about social issues that are happening in our society and community and bring them on for a discussion. We can just pick a few things once in a while. If there is some news coming up on telly about a child who has been defiled, let's pick it from there. What do you think defilement is? How do you think it can happen? How can you tell that this person is suspicious when you're on the road? Let's try to show them that that can happen even to you, my dear children, so that from there they will also be vigilant, they'll be alert. When they're walking on the road, they'll be, so then the antenna can like, mom said, ukiona mtu amekuangalia hivi, you see, such. Let's pick social issues around us and just make them subject of discussions in our families.
There's a
Anything
lot
can
to
happen
learn.
to
There's
us.
so much to learn about children and pain. And maybe as we end up, Gladys, you can tell us about who should be involved in trauma healing training so they can be helpful to children.
That's a very good question.
And you can
Yes.
talk straight to the camera.
Yeah.
Every one of us, because who abuses the children? Who makes children encounter all these bad experiences? It is us, ordinary people like me and you. Therefore, the parents, the teachers, the community, allowed children, every one of us needs to be equipped on how to handle children. In fact, there is one time that I was training the children officers in one of the sub-counties, and they were doing what we call participatory child protection. That means we need to involve the school, we need to involve the teachers, the administrators, the chiefs, the parents, the neighbors. Every one of us needs to be involved in that. And you can do that by engaging with us so that you can learn on trauma healing program. After you have learned how to deal with adults, then you can be able to go at the practice with the adults before you come back to be trained on how to handle children. For the children one, it is normally an intensive training that we do because we equip you for 3 to 4 days. Then after that, you deal with the children, real children, in a camp, in what we call a camp, that you deal with them over 10 sessions, 10 lessons that have a Bible story and a real life story. And when children are able to go through that, they're able to engage in the Bible so that they know when trouble comes, the Lord is with us. Thank you.
Wow, that's very informative. Thank you so much for this very informative session. Very enlightening and definitely transforming. It makes one want to really get to know more about children and pain. And so thank you so much, Sena and Gladys. We're very grateful for your great wisdom and insight. And we're also thankful to Bible Society of Kenya for bringing us these very, very important sessions that are helping us when it comes to dealing with pain. And so we'll continue with these sessions in the next Spotlight edition. And clearly, as we go into life, let's remember that children experience real pain. They experience real pain. But the good news is they also experience real healing.
Yes.
This has been Spotlight. Thank you for watching.